Guys, welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. I want to get right to this episode. Before we do, I want to thank you guys for listening to this podcast. Want to let you know the best way to reach out to me is probably an email at jscottoutdoors@gmail.com or through my Instagram account at jscottoutdoors. Just send me a direct message. I want to thank GoHunt.com. They are the title sponsor and have been since the inception of my podcast in 2015. You guys know Cody Nelson, my friend, the glassing guru, the optics authority there, the optics manager at GoHunt.com. If you guys have any optics needs, any tripod, any glassing questions, you can reach out to Cody directly at 602-399-3699. You can text or call him. That is his cell phone. You can also reach him at 702-847-8747. You can email optics@gohunt.com. Make sure to always use, whether ordering online or if you're calling and call Cody direct, use the J. Scott promo code. You're going to get a 10% discount. Also, you get a 10% discount at the Go Hunt Insider, which has incredible mapping now with the Go Hunt maps. It also has amazing draw odds and strategy articles, which is super important this spring going into application season. Go check it out, gohunt.com /JScott. And if you use the J. Scott promo code, you're going to get a $50 Go Hunt Gear Shop gift card when you sign up just by using the J. Scott promo code. I also want to thank KUIU Ultralight Hunting. I've been using KUIU gear since 2010 when the company started. They're based out of California. My late friend Jason Harrison was the founder of that company, and since Jason's passing, the company has just continued to push the bar of excellence and innovation. Go to KUIU, that's KUIU.com. You can order. It's a direct-to-consumer website. They also have a retail store in Dallas, Texas, as well as the headquarters in Dixon, California. Go to KUIU, KUIU.com to order. I also want to thank phonescope.com. Cheston and his guys over there at Phonescope make the best digiscoping adapters for your binos or for your spotting scope. Use the JScott24 promo code and get a 10% discount on all orders. Guys, let's get right to this episode. Again, I appreciate you tuning in, and God bless. Guys, welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. I've got Pat McCarty of Shadow Valley Outfitters on the line. Pat, how are you?
Doing great, Jay. Thanks for having us again.
You bet. We're looking at a deadline here in a week or so for the Arizona Game and Fish for the elk and antelope applications, and I always like getting you on to get your perspective on the upcoming year. How are things looking out there for the terrain and the landscape for those animals as we look at these applications going into this season? How is it looking?
So I think there's two ways to look at it right now. So far to this winter, it's been probably below average as far as moisture goes. But we just had a pretty good storm roll through about a week ago, and then looking forward to this next week, starting like right at the application deadline. We're looking at pretty heavy rainfall and snow throughout some of the high country across the state. So I'm kind of looking at this like we had a great winter last year. We had a great summer last year, good moisture. We had a lot of feed, lots of water in all the holding tanks and the ponds. And then we haven't had like a severe winter. So I think it's been relatively good for the animals. It's never good with a drought, but not having a severe winter, there's plenty of feed, there's plenty of holdover water. So I think so far we're looking pretty good. I think this next storm could really hit at a great time because it's going to come early February. Some of the bigger bulls and whatnot are going to start dropping horns. Then you're going to have hopefully a pretty good moisture content in the soil to help with a good green up.
And with that being said, how does that, in your mind, good spring moisture, how does that, late winter and early spring moisture, how does that benefit elk antlers moving forward?
So I think, last year we had everything in line to have what we thought was just going to be tremendous for horn growth, right? We had a great winter, we had a good spring, we had good summer, and we saw good horn growth. I don't think it was amazing. I think what we've learned is age class trumps everything as far as that goes. You get older, mature bulls, they know how to find good feed and good water. But what we did see was plenty of bulls in that middle tier, anything from 330, 340 to 360. We saw a lot of young bulls that definitely saw a boost that probably outdid their age class because of the good moisture and the good green up early in the year. If we could script it perfectly, we'd have a great monsoon as well, but that just doesn't happen all the time in Arizona. But I think having a good start to the horn growth year with late winter, early spring moisture is all we can really ask for at this point, because it gives the bulls that boost of good nutrition right as they're coming out of the wintertime and starting that horn growth.
Okay, with that being said, here we are moving into the application period. In your mind, what are some of the shining stars for guys that are, say, applying for archery tags in the state, and which units are shining stars and ones that your guides and you guys like?
Yeah, so I think for like the top of the class, right, the bonus point pass, your big tier units, the trophy units. For me, it's going to start with Unit 9 again. Last year was tremendous. We had a fantastic rut. We saw a lot of good bulls. I think the impact of not having trail cameras in there for multiple years now, we're starting to see the benefits of that. And some of that is taking, having people not know exactly what's out there the whole time and not just waiting for one single bull to come by that they have a ton of pictures on. Now hunters are killing bulls. They're very nice, mature bulls, 350, 360, 370 type bulls that, they're going to be happy with. They would be very, very happy with, and they're not passing something because they've seen a ghost on a trail camera, right? So, but with that, some of those bigger bulls do slip through the cracks, and you're seeing a different set of bulls in 9 again that we saw, 10 years ago, where you've got a good group of bulls that are big bulls. And then you've got a great group of middle tier bulls. And then, the bull to cow ratio in Unit 9 is typically pretty good anyways. But I think that's what we saw this last year. So I'm really looking forward to that again this year. I like Unit 9. I like, obviously, 23 North, 23 South. It's fantastic. It's got everything you need. Peace, solitude, low tag numbers. It's a great hunt. But it's not realistically a draw for very many people. So then I think you got to look at Unit 10. Unit 10 looked good. It just continues to trend in the right direction. Not having access all year long, so it gives them peace and solitude, not having trail cameras, and then it having, access to the big bow restricted to a certain point, by people having to buy a permit. It does limit how many people go in there. So that does open up some hunting opportunity, and not every bull's known. So I have that right up there too. And then I also have Unit 1. We've been in there, for quite a while now, and Unit 1 was tremendous last year. We had a great hunt. All the archery hunters did a fantastic job holding out and killing good bulls that are the bulls you're going to go in there looking for. So I'm really happy with how it went. So I guess I would say 9, 10, obviously 23 North or South, and then Unit 1 as well. I really like that. For the middle tier units, I'm looking at, I think 7 West is right in the middle of that again, because you get a lot of bulls coming over from 9 and 10. We like the 6A. It's lower side, but it's still a great opportunity for guys.
Lower side as far as quality?
As far as quality, but great opportunity, right? So, there's plenty of opportunity, but it's lower side of quality. And then, for us, we really, as for years and years, we love the Unit 8 hunt. We had a great hunt in there last year. It's sneaky, right? On a good wet year, you can have some giants come out of Unit 8. Is that, the thought going in all the time? Well, obviously we're looking for that. But if you have a bull in that 330, 350 class, you need to consider shooting it. So Unit 8 sneaky. I personally still love the unit. I think it's a great opportunity, and you can go in there and hunt something really big.
How much of that, though, is because you're local to there, not very far from your house, and you know it really well? I mean, do you still
Yeah,
think that
a
that
lot of it.
translates to someone that maybe would go to a couple of these middle tier units and doesn't know it as well as you, or do you feel like yes, it is kind of a really good unit for middle tier?
Like I say, I think it's that it's sneaky, right? I think that's the best way to describe it. Obviously, because we know it, we've got some history with bulls year to year, so that changes it a little bit. But every year we talk to guys on either side of the spectrum. Like we talked to guys that said, I thought this was going to be a better hunt. It was hot, the rut was bad, whatever the case is, and they're bummed out. And then we talk to other guys that are like, wow, that was phenomenal. I haven't had a hunt like that in the past. So it's very pocketed as far as rut activity goes and what guys are going to see on a day-to-day basis. Sometimes it was really tough. Last year, it was a tough hunt. It was. But we were able to, pocket bulls, a lot of work at night, driving around, listening to bugles, trying to find out where the action was. But once you kind of pinpoint them, you can get in there and get after them pretty well. So, for me, I think it really depends on what the expectation of each individual hunter is and what they're going to be happy with versus how many bonus points they have, right? Like if a guy's sitting on, 22, 23, 24 points and he's chasing those top tier units, I say, hey, hold out. Don't put in for unit 8 hunt. You can wait. But if you have a guy in that, 13 to 16 points, it's going to be really hard for them to catch the bonus point pass or even catch a random tag on those other units. So they need to look at other stuff. I would say 7 West is probably better, obviously, than the unit 8 hunt. But I think it's right in there close. If a guy has the time to put in on a unit 8 hunt, he can do well. If not, if you don't have time to do that, it's going to be really, really difficult.
And then how do you see like units 5A, 5B, 4A, 4B, any of those playing into your strategy?
Yeah, so I like the 5A, 5B hunt a lot. I would say I would put that in there with the 7 West, and I'd put that in there above Unit 8 for sure. The last couple of years, it's really produced well. There's been some really great bulls that have come out of there, so I really, really like it. The 4s, I would say, if you know it well, it can really produce, right? And every now and then, there's going to be a bull that comes out of that country that is a special bull. I would say it's kind of like the Unit 8 stuff in that same lower to maybe middle tier, but I really like the 5B and 5A, on that early rifle hunt that's in there. That's a great option for guys that are chasing an early rifle tag, but they're not going to catch, the Unit 9 rifle, the Unit 10 early rifle, or, the early 9 muzzleloader on an off year. So that's a hunt that people should consider because you're go in there and you have an opportunity to harvest a bull that's, better than 360, something in that 370 plus range.
One thing you haven't talked about is the block units, which you are familiar with because it's right there by your house. What are your thoughts on the block units? And when I say the block units, let the people know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so we're talking about the 17s, 18s, 19s. For us, Jay, it's tough, right? Because guys look at the regs and they're like, ooh, I can draw an early rifle tag in the multi-unit, in the block unit, and I can go and it's, several weeks long. So they say they really, really like that. But it is a limited opportunity hunt. And there's a lot of private land out there that limits opportunity to the land that's holding elk. Now, if you've got the points and you can get on some of the ranches, then it's a great opportunity for you to do that. But that's not the reality for everybody. So we talked to a lot of guys that draw the tag and they're like, tell me what this is. I see a lot of great bulls. I'm like, well, a lot of those are private land hunts. But if a guy's looking to get out here on his first hunt and come and learn and spend some time, they can draw it without waiting forever to do so. They can draw it, non-residents can draw it. Not maybe the early rifle, but some of the general hunts with, 8 or less points. So it gives them an opportunity to do that. But, we really don't do much in there. We do take some hunters, but we really try not to mislead that that's a great hunt by any means. It's an opportunity, and it's limited opportunity. That's kind of how we view it still.
Okay, when we look at the upcoming season dates for most archery units in Arizona on this year, it's September 13th through the 26th. We've got a full moon on the 18th, right during the middle of the hunt. How do you think the moon will impact that?
I think it's going to be really similar to what we saw last year. because the moon definitely had an impact on the later part of the hunt. Um, like Unit 9, we'll just use for example, when the rut gets rocking and rolling in Unit 9, it really doesn't have a great impact, right? You're going to see a little bit, maybe less activity middle of the day, but they're going to be rocking and rolling early in the morning and in the evening. I think where it really impacts the activity of the elk is going to be in the middle tier units, like the Unit 8s, the 7 West, the 5B, where maybe they're not going as hard as they do in some of the other units, and maybe it's a little bit warmer, drier, all those factors. So I think that will definitely play a role. And when that happens, it's really important to start focusing on what they need rather than just like what they want. So where's the water? They're still going to go to water. Where's the best feed? They're still going to be feeding. Maybe the rut is taking place at night. They're not as active. So we got to think about, how to intercept them in some of those areas. So I don't love the dates, and it's just a touch earlier than it was last year. Obviously, the early rifle dates look fantastic. The block unit archery looks a little bit better because it's a little bit longer of a hunt. And if you can find, I can't remember what unit, but there's a unit or two that have a little bit later start dates. So if
like
if
a 21 starts on
Yeah,
September
21.
20th and goes to the 3rd, gives you a
Yeah,
little bit more time.
It does. It gives you a little more time, and it gives you a little bit of that waning moon. So if guys are super concerned about it, then I would focus on something like that. But 21, there's some tremendous bulls that came out of there last year, but that's the rarity, right? I mean, it's not known for tremendous opportunity and a ton of elk. The elk that are in there oftentimes are really good, but it's more of an opportunity as well.
Tough hunt, yeah. Talk late hunts. Which ones do you like for the late hunts?
Yep. So on the late hunts, obviously we like the Unit 8 hunt. It provides a lot of opportunity for glassing. It provides a lot of opportunity for, that old school walking canyons, ridges, glassing really close instead of, always glassing at afar. So you can pick your way through some pockets. You can pick your way through the canyons midday and find those bedded bulls. And then you still have your traditional way of glassing, spot and stock. We love the Unit 10 hunt. One thing I think it's important for people, because we talk to a lot of people that are like, oh, I want that Unit 10 Unit 9 late rifle hunt. And that is a vastly different hunt than the early hunts. And I think it's important for people to understand that, because they just hear Unit 9 and it turns them on to that. It is a vastly different hunt. It is a much more difficult hunt. There's some good bulls that are going to be killed out of there. We killed some good bulls out of there last year on the late rifle hunt, but it's much different. It's not great glassing opportunity. There's a lot of hunters, and it's a relatively flat unit. So that seems to be a trap, Jay, that we're seeing year in and year out when people draw that tag. So I want people to be aware of that. Obviously, we like the 23 hunt. It's fantastic. We did well in there the last few years. The 5Bs, that's another really good one. And we really like the 6A hunt. There's enough canyons. There's a lot of country that you can work, and you can get in. And there's, probably the largest resident herd in the state is probably in that 6A country. It's just so big, and there's so many elk in there. It's just quality's not what, maybe some guys are interested in. But it's a great unit for hunting elk in general. Take quality for what it is.
All right, let's hop over and talk Arizona Antelope and go through some of the units that you like for Arizona Antelope. Kind of do the same thing you did before, kind of, upper tier, mid tier type of situation.
Yeah, so top tier, just considering what's possible in the unit, and then also access is going to be 5B. I think the 5B hunt, if you have the points or you draw a tag in the random, it gives you an opportunity to go in there and hunt for what the best Arizona has to offer at this point. If I had that tag, I'd be looking something, 83, 84 or better. And then see how the unit and the scouting develops as the hunt gets closer. Antelope right now in Arizona is tough. The Unit 10 hunt is not what it was. And so I don't recommend that people put in for that with the assumption of what it was 10, 15 years ago. If you've got an 80-inch buck in there, you really need to consider killing that buck if you're lucky enough to draw the tag. The amount of tags that are given, it just, Unit 10 is not in my top any longer at all. So I would say 5B, I love it. I really like the 19A hunt for rifle archery. 19B, 19A and 19B, they do come with their access problems still. So be aware of that. Unit 9 is coming back, but I'd still say it's a middle tier. So for my top tier, I would have 5B, I would have 19A and 19B. Just be aware with those, especially with 19B, there's no bonus point pass for those hunts. And I think there might be enough on the rifle, but you do not want the 19B rifle tag. There's too many hunters that come through prior. With the advancements of archery and muzzleloaders, you're going to be left with scraps on 19B for the rifle. So I advise people not to put in for that one. 19A, just be prepared for the private land issues that come with that. There is access on some certain ranches. Some are open to working with hunters. Others are, they like to work with certain outfitters just because they have a relationship and there's one guy they can call if there's an issue. Like for us, we've got one that, if there's an issue, he calls me and, I give him the story and tell him what's going on and that works. But others they want to work with hunters. So it's possible to do that in 19A, but be aware it is an issue. 7 West last year and 7 East, there were some good bulls or bucks killed out of there, but it's also, by the time the rifle hunt comes around, it's a little bit hit and miss as to what's available after the archers go through. So for my top, still, it's going to be 5B. It's going to be 19A, 19B. And then we're looking at, for the middle tier, I'm going to put 9. I'm going to put Unit 1. I do like Unit 1 for that hunt. It's a middle tier. They've got, and that's one that someone can draw in a bonus pass because I believe there's 30 tags on that for rifle. Unit 10 is going to be lower middle tier. Now there's still some really great bucks and there's some opportunity to go kill some bucks, but it's not what it once was. Like we remember years and years ago. And then beyond that, you've got kind of a mixed bag of what's available. There's some really good bucks coming out of 4A. So I think, even the 5s, like we talked about, that's just the top of the class right there still, especially since so much of it is public land.
You bet. Do you think Arizona antelope is slowly declining or rapidly declining in quality?
I think it's rapidly declining at this point, and it's sad. But I think, every year we talk to guys and they're like, hey, I drew this tag. Do you think I should hunt it? And unless you have a health issue or something that really prohibits you from hunting, you need to hunt it because you're probably not going to get another opportunity. When you look at the tag allotment from year to year, it is declining rapidly.
Right.
They're cutting units. A lot of units used to have 2 archery tags. Now they only have 1. And there's only 5 tags on them. If you look at it, and this is something for people to be aware of, when you're looking at how many tags are in a unit, there is not a bonus point pass unless it's 10 or above. So guys are like, oh, I'm at max points. I'm going to put in for this unit with 5 tags and I'll get it. Well, that's not the case. All of those are probably going to be random just because there's no bonus point or non-resident pool to have. So anything is in random. And when you look at how many units actually have a bonus point pass or a non-resident pool to draw from, it'll be nothing in 5 years, I bet. And then, the other thing is the development of, human encroachment, especially in the 19s. Within, 3 to 5 years, it's not going to be huntable country except for on some of the far reaches of the unit on private land.
Sure, Pat, I know your time is valuable, and I know you've got to get going today. It's been great having you on the podcast. I want to give you a chance to let the listeners know how they can reach out, follow you, and reach out to you if they want to hear more.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, Jay. Guys can reach out to me, myself, or they can reach out to Bob Dykeman or Ben Brochu as well. So my number is 928-533-1903. And then the other number I'm going to give you is Ben Brochu. And Ben is 520-907-6079. And then lastly, I'll give him Bob's number. And Bob's number is 928-925-3437. If anybody has questions, feel free to reach out to any of us. Besides the phone numbers, you can hit us on Facebook or Instagram. We love to talk to people about hunting, whether you're a DIY guy, you want to pick our brain, or if you're looking to get something lined up. I do tell guys this every year that if you're considering hunting with us, as a smaller outfit, we cover a lot of units, and we do that, with specific people that work in each unit, and we're not bouncing people around necessarily. But because of that, we book up fairly quickly. So, if you're considering us, please let us know. We'd love to talk to you prior. So I really appreciate your time, Jay.
Buddy, thanks for everything. God bless, and I'll see you down the road, okay?
Thanks, buddy. Have a great day.
All right.